Hello and welcome to another JavaScript SEO Q&A. Today is the 1st of September. Woo, holy shit, we've done like 8 months of the year already. That's bananas. Um, Usually the format goes like this. You can post questions on the YouTube thread. I'll answer the YouTube questions, and then everyone who joins the live recording gets to ask me a question live as well, or gets to ask a follow-up question if they posted a question. And then these recordings go up on our YouTube channel as well. And in 2 weeks, there will be another opportunity to ask us questions. So let's go through the YouTube questions real quick. Guru for a Day, interesting name, asks me, they have a challenge with the single page application where they have a solution for users to find all service answers on one page, but this page is not indexed. They tried to use canonicals on the customer side and are in the process to implement href. Hope you can share some pointers to a non-technical person. Not really a JavaScript question, but in general, I would say use Google Search Console to see what's going on, why it's not being indexed. It is possible, especially when in single-page applications, that there's something preventing us from rendering the page properly. And in that case, we wouldn't see content. And if there's no content, we might think this is an error page, or we might think it's just not very good in terms of, well, content because there is none. And then that's why it might not be indexed. The thing that you say, like, we are in the process of implementing href, I'm not so sure what you mean by that. If it's href-lang, then that doesn't really have bearings on how pages are being indexed. But if what you mean is that your links do not have hrefs, then that's probably why this page isn't indexed, because we probably haven't even discovered it. But I would definitely use Search Console and the live test, the URL inspection testing tool, to try to see what might prevent us from indexing the page, because it could be pretty much anything at this point. It's very, very vague to say what the problem here might be. We have another question that's not really a JavaScript question, which is from Ankur. He's asking, what would be the cause for blocked by robots.txt in coverage report in Search Console? Even though those pages are no indexed, Googlebot still continues to crawl them at scale. So again, a little unclear what's happening, what you're seeing, but a no index on the page does not mean that we are not crawling it. It just means that we are crawling it and not putting it in the index. So it wouldn't show up in search results. Then again, if you block it by robots.txt, we wouldn't really crawl it. In which case, if you are seeing Googlebot crawling it, it's probably fake Googlebots. Because if you tell us, please don't fetch this URL, then we wouldn't actually do that, generally speaking. If you are wondering why the page still shows up in the index, then that's because we are not seeing the no index when we can't crawl it. So we might put it in the index because something links to this page, and we figured out, like, oh, there is a page about something, but it would probably not rank very high anyway, because we don't really have information if we can't crawl it. Then there's a question from Shao. How will Google deal with and interpret web pages using window history push state to change the display URL on the browser? Will Google associate the page with the URL modified or with the URL before the modification through push state? That's a good question. I haven't really tried that. I think I tried it a long time ago, and when I tried, it's basically treated as if it's a redirect kind of, so it's being associated with the URL after the modification. But I will have to verify that. I'll let you know. I think I have you on Twitter as well, or I'll reply to the thread on YouTube. But I think my hypothesis is that we are treating it as if it is a redirect, and will associate the information with the displayed URL after history push state. Then there's a question from Sanjay. In December 2020, we revamped and migrated our site to Node.js. Since then, Google Search Console is reporting mobile usability issues on many URLs of all page types on our site. But these issues are not permanent. And sometimes they're reporting pages as having issues, sometimes as valid pages. And they noticed that if they test the source code instead of the URL, they get these problems. And then they figured out that the viewport tag, if they add a minimum scale parameter, then it seems to be working, but some URLs are still failing. I would say generally speaking, the mobile friendliness validator is a little flaky. Sometimes it oscillates a little bit between issues and non-issues. Can be caching issues. I wouldn't worry too much about it, especially if it's just 5 URLs that are like flapping between valid and non-valid. But if it looks good on mobile for you, it should generally be fine. And mobile friendliness is one out of many, many factors that we are looking at in ranking. So you shouldn't worry too much unless you're really having issues ranking properly. But I wouldn't worry too much about it. So yes, the classifier is a little flaky. We're working on making it less flaky, and I think we have already made good progress. But yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about it. And I would also check if it's like CSS sometimes not being fetched properly, or if there's some flakiness in your CDN when you're delivering CSS to a CDN. Sometimes they behave a little funky. And if we can't fetch the CSS, then the styling might be off, and then that might be where this issue is coming from. But in general, if it's basically flapping between the two states, that might just be noise from our classifier not being super determinant. And I think that's it for the YouTube questions. There was one question, when will the SEO update come? I can't make pre-announcements that we don't have made yet, so I don't know the future, and it's not a JavaScript question either. So sorry, not going to answer that much more. And with that, I open the stage to you all to ask me your burning questions. Any questions here in the group?
I have one.
All right, go ahead.
I posted the other question on under Google for a day. Maybe I can elaborate a bit. As I explained, Martin, I'm not the technical guy. I'm just sort of more of the product owner. So we created this product where you can get from a question to an answer really fast on one page. It's a single page application, so it helps you guide through different steps, and then it shows you the answer. But on the back end, it is the single page application, all in JavaScript. Challenge for us is that we have you could do up to 16,000 answers on one page, and we hope that it will increase findability also for the users from Google. But it's indexed it's indexed by Bing, but not by Google. And we tried a couple of things to improve on this, but seems that there are so many different ways to challenge this that I thought, well, let's ask the expert on how to best approach it.
Do you happen to have a sample URL that I could take a look at?
Yeah, I have a live URL where you can
test it. Exactly. You can throw this in here, and then I'll just quickly. All right, I'll. Is it okay? This is going to be on the recording. If that's okay, I can share that. Okay, good. I really like it when people are fine with that, because I feel like I don't want to show something in public that you're not comfortable showing in public.
No. I'm very
really grateful, because I think this is the moment where learning happens publicly, and I think that's generally a good thing. I understand that a lot of people are hesitant to share, which is why I'm even more glad that you are not hesitant to share, so that I can go through this, so that you learn, as well as everyone watching this video probably learns something from here. Oh, come on, why does this take so long? Here we go. Let's have a look at the tested page, just roughly the screenshot. Okay, let's have a look at the page in a normal browser tab at the same time. So what I'm doing is I'm basically just like visiting the URL for the moment. And oh, it's translating it to English for me. Thank you very much. That's very nice. The reason why I do this, and now I'm also looking at it in a mobile view so that I have comparable information here. I'll remove the dev tools. Okay, so okay, that's unfortunate because oh God, okay, hold on. Maybe I can zoom out a little bit, fit to window, so that I can actually get rid of this banner here. This might be my internet connection. I don't know, but the banner doesn't go away. Huh, strange. Let's reload the page real quick, just making sure that it's not my internet connection or something that's going. Oh, it might be because we are translating it, and Google Translate might have ideas. Ah, yeah, there we
Adjust
go.
the cookie policy, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So what you see here is the snippet that's in the page,
Mm-hmm.
and it shows you different steps and asks you questions to come to a specific answer. So, and each time you click on a specific answer, we get a specific URL. And
so I would have to click on one of these
yes.
4, I guess. Okay, in that case,
Yes.
I click on that. Ah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And here you get to show. Here you have an answer, and then the bold text is like the solution part.
Okay. Okay. So like the question is like, is this for free? Yes, the app is for free. Okay. So yeah, the app is gratis. Let's see if it's in the HTML as well. Yeah. Or was it like yeah, comma, I think it is. So I go into the mobile friendly test again. You could do this in Search Console. I just don't have access to your page in Search Console. So yeah, comma. And here we see something, right? It's not in the content. So any of the answer content here in the page, I'm sorry, that was stupid. So any of the content here, like any of this, Googlebot doesn't see.
No.
So that's a bit unfortunate, because that means that probably we're not seeing much in terms of content here. It's a little tricky to judge this from the HTML right now. I could like copy and paste this over and see what actually is. Let's actually do that. So I'll quickly put this into something that shows us the HTML a little nicer. At this point, I am experimenting a little bit. Let's tidy this up so that we can see. So this is pretty much the content that Googlebot sees.
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes, you said like the main content is hidden behind here, right?
Yeah, so that's the subject selections. So
yeah.
You have, and I think this is the path. Yeah, so this is the first user tab, and then the user can go in the page, make the selection from different tabs, and then go to the solution.
Right.
And this is actually, so this is an improvement where you have FAQ websites with a lot of trees where a customer kind of loses their way. And here we have in one page, you go from a question to an answer.
Yeah.
And we help guide the customer as good as possible to help them out.
Yeah.
And it works really good for customers. And but yeah, this is still a challenge.
So yes, exactly. So looking from a Google perspective, if I'm coming to this website and I'm seeing, so like this is not really content, this is just navigation, which is fine, right? This is not really content. This is also kind of like still, I mean, I don't speak Dutch, so this is a little tricky, but it looks like this is not that useful as content in terms of a user would not necessarily search for something like this here. I know that from a user's perspective, if I tap on this on your site as a human being, I get interesting content for these things. But if I'm just looking at this is not content either. This is a few words. And then down here, this is privacy policy, contact, footer stuff.
Yeah.
So yes. there is not much in terms of content on this page, right? If I'm looking at this, I know as a user there is content hidden behind these things. But if I'm looking at it as a user on the way that I'm seeing it as Googlebot would see it, this page doesn't really have much content, right?
All right. Yeah.
I mean, we know that there is more content hidden behind these, but it's not here. It's not present in the HTML as Googlebot sees it. So the problem here seems to be that the way that you implemented it, for the user, there is all the content is hidden behind these things, but Googlebot doesn't see it at all. It's just not there. And I think that's because this is not a link. This is probably something else. This is, oh, it turns out this is a link. It's just not, it's not really a link. It is a link in the sense of the HTML tag is a link tag, good, but it doesn't have anywhere to go. It doesn't point to a URL. So what you're effectively having here is buttons, basically, because you have to click on things. Googlebot doesn't click on things, so it doesn't see the content that is loaded when I click on this. You have multiple opportunities on how to improve that. One easy way to improve this would be to make this into, now I know what you mean with we are implementing href, and that's a clever thing. What you could do is you could make this point to a URL where you already load this. So basically have, I don't know, quick question, can you actually see, when I share the Chrome tab, can you see the developer tools that I'm navigating in right now, or do you only see the page?
No, I see the
you can't see the developer tools. Yeah, I can't see the developer tools. Interesting. Hold on, let me actually share the entire window so that's a little easier to show you what I'm doing here. Share a window. Share this window, please. Yes, do share this window. Oh, this is going to be freaky because it's going to be, okay, here we go. So now there should be developer tools on the bottom as well. And I'm trying to increase the size a little bit. Oh, Jesus, this is slow. All right, here we go. So one way of dealing with this is actually making this into a link that a crawler can follow. And it could be, I don't know, /service contact question mark, or like even better would be like something like /aktivieren. And then basically when someone would come to this, to this specific URL, you would already load this content so that you actually have, or whatever content I clicked on. I can't remember what I clicked on, but it looks like I'm on this page. So that Google has a page where this content is actually present. The alternative would be to have this content load and just hide it, and then show it when someone clicks on it. That way Googlebot would also see it, but the user still has the same experience. So the problem here seems to be that Googlebot does not actually see the content. And actually what I'm wondering is if I even shared the window properly. Yes, I did. Actually, great. So the problem really seems to be that Googlebot can't see the content. So when we don't see the content, it looks like the page doesn't really have much. And it's interesting to see that Giacomo answered in the chat as well, and your guess is right. So yeah, make this into links that are having a URL that loads the content so that Googlebot can be like, so this URL doesn't really show me much, but these links here, they point me to content that is interesting for users so that I would index this. It looks like we're not seeing the content, and that's your problem.
Cool.
Does that make sense?
Yes, yes. So, but I think you clicked on one button and then it showed content, but there is the possibility to click to make it 5 levels deep. So to go from a main topic to a subtopic to a sub-subtopic and then to a specific question. Yeah. And then would this then still work?
It would still work. And in that case, what I would do is you have to balance things a little bit. It's the simple answer to the question is it depends. The slightly longer answer, I'm so sorry if I'm taking time away from everyone else in the chat. No one, look, everyone is fine with it, so I'll just continue. You want to have each URL should have enough content to be relevant, which is like if you have very specific questions with a 1-word or 1-sentence answer, then that's not much in terms of content. So you probably want to structure it so that a page always has enough coherent content, which means content that belongs kind of together. And then you can still like hide things, but you would load the content anyway. So Googlebot finds enough content to say like, this page looks like it's answering enough around the question and the question in question. That sounds weird. The specific question. But yeah, you would have to be a little, you would have to try things out a little bit, basically. But I think the main problem here really is that we are not seeing the content and we have no way of reaching the content right now. So that's why the page is not being indexed, because we are not seeing any content. We're seeing boilerplate and links, but not really the content. But you can do that with like lots of levels of nesting. It's just a matter of how much nesting makes sense and where do you want to have the page contain all the questions to a specific product or service, and then just like hide them and show them as users navigate on the page, but show all of them in one go to Googlebot. That's something that you would have to discuss probably with an SEO expert to help you guide you making decisions there.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Giacomo is asking if I answered the question from Shao regarding the history push state. I did. I said I'm not 100% sure, but I think I tested this a long time ago, and I think it behaved the way that we are associating the page with the URL after push state. But I'll test that. And then I'll update the YouTube question with the answer to the question. Cool. In that case, any other questions? Eric, Dave, Giacomo? Oh, Giacomo raised his hand. There we go.
Okay, so hi, Martin.
Hi, Giacomo.
So when WRS is rendering a page as it is, for example, very bad coded, let's say an infinite loop, sometimes the page crash, and in the end, Google indexing the non-rendered version because can't render the page. So for this specific behavior, there is an API, the reporting API, that is sending also the crash report to a specific server. So I think that in the Google Web Rendering Service, this is not enabled. We can get all the other reporting API with the reporting observer and JavaScript, like sending back the beacon, as you know I'm doing at the moment.
Did you try Beacon API? Does it work in WRS?
Yeah, no, it's working perfectly. Woo! Beacon API, JavaScript, post and fetch without any problem. And we can use it. We can use the reporting observer that there is in Chrome now, so we can get all the stuff from the reporting API, but not the crash report, obviously, because the page is crashing before sending back the beacon.
Yeah.
I'm asking if there is a possibility if you can enable only the crash report in the web rendering service. This is just a question.
I don't know the answer to that. I can ask the rendering team. That I can do. Yeah, I'll ask the rendering team. Maybe we can enable that. I think that would be a cool addition. But maybe they're like, oh, this is a lot of work, or maybe they're like, no, we don't want to do that because X, Y, Z. But I can definitely ask them.
Yeah, because in that case, we don't really know if the page is rendered correctly or not. In all the other stuff, we can get from Search Console all the everything. In this case, obviously, you probably find that the page is not rendering correctly. Also, visiting the page, because if it's not rendering correctly on your browser, it's probably not rendering correctly on the web rendering services. But sometimes you have weird stuff in the service and.
I can see so many edge cases that would only crash in WRS. Yeah, I feel you. I see. It's a good question. I'll bring this up with the rendering team.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for making the suggestion. All right. Any other questions?
I've got one. Yes. Is there any way you can suggest with some of the official tools or Google to see something that relies on intersection observer that's maybe further down the page, testing whether that will work before it's indexed, because the suit tools don't really expand the viewport, it seems. So current case, I've got a client in there in trying to introduce some components that are lazy loaded down towards the bottom of the page. I can understand why they want to do it as well. But they're not very keen on do trust me. It looks like it'll work. I'm sure it will work. I can't see any reason why it wouldn't work, but they're just very nervous about do trust me, it'll be fine. I mean, obviously, once something's indexed, that's great. We can look in the rendered HTML. see if it's worked. But
Yeah.
are there any things? I mean, I
Oh,
don't know.
man.
Would it follow if you put something like an anchor tag in there or something like that? Could that
Yeah,
work?
that could work. So the thing is, it's hilarious that you bring this up because technically what you found is a bug in the suit tools.
Right.
It's basically configuration drift, where at some point for some reason, and I don't know why it happened. It wasn't a seemingly unrelated commit in the past. They changed the configuration for mobile in the suit tools, and I tried to fix that, but then I broke like a lot of other things, and I was like, ah, damn it. So I like basically on and off for the last 2 years, I have been trying to fix this bug, and I haven't really made significant progress on it. And to be fair, no one's like you're the first one since 2018 when I know this bug existed to mention this and to recognize this. So I didn't really have that much motivation to like really push for fixing this. What I would suggest if it works, and it might not, is I test these things with the rich result test, because there it lets me pick which crawler I want, and then I just go with the desktop one, and in desktop it should expand the viewport, and that's how I tested it for it. So that might be, it's a weird workaround. I am very well aware of it, but that might
cool.
get you
I've
there.
noticed that worked. That's brilliant. Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
And the reason really is just configuration drift, where this has been disabled, and it seems that that's also part of the reason why you're only getting above the fold in the mobile friendly test and in the screenshot for the suit tools wherever it is using the mobile version of the crawler. It's because expand viewport is not happening, and it's not a real thing in indexing. In indexing, that happens to be correct, but it's one of the tiny differences between the testing tools and the real world indexing, which is unfortunate, I'm aware, but the bug doesn't seem to be important enough to get enough priority to get fixed, and I don't assign it much more priority either, because there's so much to do. Yeah, but I'm actually very happy that someone spotted the bug. It's like I really enjoy people doing like a bunch of tests and like figuring these things out. It's usually either you, Dave, or Giacomo, who are like, I tested this thing. It does this weird thing. Can you tell me why? And I'm like, yeah, I know. I can't remember who of the two it was that brought up the web worker thing as well. But yeah, it's these edge cases where I'm like, oh, I wonder if anyone notices it, and like very few people do. Kind of funny.
Yeah. I think it's only me and Giacomo noticing it's probably not that high priority, is it?
There's also Adam from, is it DeepCrawl? Is it OnCrawl? I can't remember which company he works for, but Adam Gent, if I remember.
Adam Gent, yeah, he used to be DeepCrawl. He's a solo now. He's a freelancer.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Because he was the first one to spot when Evergreen Googlebot rolled out. He was the first one to like ping me on Twitter, being like, "Hey, we just tested this API that isn't available in the old Chrome, but Googlebot seems to support it. Is that like?" And I'm like, "Yep, you just came across a URL that is already rolled out for the Evergreen Googlebot," and that was kind of cool, because we were teasing the rollout at some conference right before it started happening, and like no one picked up on it. Everyone was like into all sorts of conspiracy theories about SEO, and we were like, John and me were dropping hints of Evergreen Googlebot to happen, and no one picked up. And Adam was like, huh, and then tested things, and then it's like, this one URL reports differently than all the other URLs. What is this? What is this about? And we're like, ta-da! Welcome in the 10% of URLs that already have the Evergreen Googlebot. So that's kind of funny. Yeah, but it's an inconsistency in the testing tools. Sorry for that.
Yeah, no, it's great if the rich results in the browser and desktop, and that's problem solved. Then we've got a solution. Yeah. That's brilliant. Thank you.
And yeah, I mean that's the thing. Like in the other tools, you can't choose which crawler you're getting, because it gets the crawler that is actually responsible for the thing, and actually is running on the thing. But rich result test lets you choose, and desktop doesn't have the problem. Yeah.
Excellent.
Cool. Any other questions? Anyone else? Or Dave, more questions? I don't know. Either way, it's fine. No.
Regarding the suite tool and all the testing tools, would be possible in the future, in the far future, to have a different user agent, or at least to have some things like, I don't know, something specific that we can just understand that those are testing tool and the other one is the real Google bot.
Knowing from previously having spoken to the team, it's very unlikely to happen because they are really, really reluctant to do that. Because then obviously people would do like stupid things, as in like sniff the user agent for the testing tools and then do something different. Then people are like, your testing tools show me this, and then we're like, well, it's because you're treating them differently. And you know how it is in web development these days. It's layers upon layers upon layers. So it might be that they are not even aware that that's happening because the framework made that choice for them, and they are just blindly using the framework without noticing. And it's interesting that you bring that up because I had this conversation with a team about being able in Search Console. I was like, hey, would it be possible to let me, similar to rich results test, would it be able to let me choose which crawler I want to see? And they're like, no. And they're like, why not? And they're like, because we want, no, it makes sense. They are reasonable about this. I'm not saying that this is a stupid thing. And the reasoning behind it is they want to make sure that when you are using the URL inspection tool in Search Console, you are seeing what Googlebot would be seeing within the limitations of not using cache and blah, blah, blah. So it makes sense that you can't choose the user agent, because then if you choose the user agent that is not the user agent, or not the user agent is the wrong term, the crawler, if you're choosing the crawler that we are not actually using to crawl the page, you might get confused about it. It's like, but it looks like everything's loading here. It's like, yeah, that's because you chose to use the desktop crawler, but we're actually using the mobile crawler. So that's why we're not seeing it. It's like, oh, so I see their point, even though I still feel like it would be nice to have some sort of indication if it's the testing tools or not. But I see that point that the testing tools are trying to be as close to the real thing as possible, so that you shouldn't have ability to like either detect if it's the testing tool or to change the way that the actual crawler would interact with the page. Even though I think, and it makes sense if you think about it, 95% of the hesitation and confusion around the testing tools is people assuming they're different from what actually happens in real life when they are not. Asterisk. I mean, they are slightly different. We know that, but yeah, I see where they're coming from, and that's why I think it's unlikely that we'll ever get a way to distinguish between testing tools and the real crawler.
It would be awesome if they could limit it maybe to a range of IP addresses, although in itself that is something different, because quite often we get people trying to ngrok and stuff, and like, the performance on this page is terrible, it took ages, you know, and they just want to be able to let the testing tools only, obviously not real Googlebot, into the thing. And maybe on the other side of that, although once again, is, you know, ignore something like robot text just so it could get through, but once again, then it's a different experience. You know, it's always bad.
Exactly. So I see use cases like this and others where I'm like, it might make sense to do that, but I don't see much motivation coming from the team to actually do these things. So I'm not going to promise that I can place it with the team again, but I have a feeling that they'll say like, no, because we want it to be as close to the, and that's the other thing, because it is so close to the real thing, it just basically uses roughly the same parameters. I just explained that there is a parameter drift from the viewport expansion. And thus we can't limit it to an IP range or something, because it's just using the Googlebot infrastructure and just saying like, hi, as far as you are aware, I'm just a regular request. Woohoo! And yeah, which is unfortunate, I'm aware. But I have a feeling that we'll be stuck with that for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you don't fix the resize stuff on mobile, I'm already using an event listener on the resize of the window, so I know when it's Googlebot and when it's not Googlebot. And there are also
I like
other
that.
other small things like images. You know that Googlebot is not downloading images, but you know that in the rendering test they are downloading images. So there are a few ways to understand this, but yeah, I don't want to give people too many ideas for this.
I love this. I love this so much. This is great. Thank you so much. There are not very many people who are like paying attention to the details like you do, and I really appreciate that. Trust me, I appreciate it. I like it. Awesome. Does anyone else? Any questions? Anything that I can help with? There's no maybe. Okay. In which case, I'd like to say thank you so much, everyone who submitted questions and everyone who's watching the video when it was uploaded to YouTube. And also thanks a lot for the lovely people here in the Hangout. It has been a great pleasure. It's always fun to do these. I miss these a lot, and they'll be back in the bi-weekly or fortnightly frequency. So thanks a lot for joining. Thanks a lot for all the questions. Have a great time. Stay safe, stay healthy. Bye-bye. And